All our memory bearings from the time are all damaged in the blackout. But there are sometimes fragments.
Hello. Morning, everyone. I say that it's bright and early. It's my usual spiel. I hope you're well. We're back with the Deep Feed, episode 24. The Devolution of Slugwave. This one's an interesting one. I produce various electronic music, various genres, under the name Deep and Beeper. That's Deep and then N and then Beeper. All separate sort of words, although N isn't a word, is it? And yeah, I make various electronical music of all styles. And this one, some of my friends, I joke, I think it might be Tom, shout outs to Tom or Sam or someone who christened my music as a joke, the genre Slugwave. I'll let you see what you think of how sluggy it is. Jerry also is well known before that even for calling it slug music. And so just quickly starting off, this is a drum and bass track, my latest one. So we're going to start with the latest and go back in time. This will be In Fear of a Red Planet, and featuring my wife Amp and I rapping a little bit. One Pac-Man. Here we go. Starting now.
Humanity has only survived this long by crushing the earth to suit its needs.
What's crushed can be rebuilt, regrown from all souls' guilt.
The stars, our only hope.
Humanity needs to birth Gaia, create internal soul food fire.
Surfire, Gaia surfire we desire.
Burning away survival of the fit code. We condense starlight, need what's owed.
The stars, our the stars. Only I hope.
Man's got it twisted, we can fix this. We struggled 13.8 billion years out of nothing. Too long to go back to the dark now. We can do anything. Anything.
Environmental tune, it's meant to be. I think it's kind of obvious what it's talking about. I don't need to say the words. Yeah. So moving swiftly on, next we have dubstep, hard dubstep, a remix of The A in the I by One Pac Man. It's originally sort of hip-hop, trip-hop tune on my album. As you can hear in the background, that's my wife, but it's not her, it's an AI, of course.
Receiving D555 connection telemetry information.
Yeah, this one's hard. It's nice dubstep. It's pretty deep. It's The A in the I, and it's Deep in Beeper's bass telemetry remix. This one is out. That last track, In Fear of a Red Planet, it's not out yet. It'll be out when NJC gets around to doing his remix and mastering it, of course. But in the meantime, I will let this next track soothe your bass desire. I love I think it's also got some vibing, trippy instruments in it. I'm really pleased with this one, actually. Here we go.
Warm-up sequence. Warm-up sequence. Receiving D555 connection telemetry information.
Limits of any kind are illusions. of any kind are illusions.
Funny for someone who produced the track, I don't even know what that instrument is exactly. Sample that I found after much digging for some suitable noises. Yeah, also if you're interested, that little samplet that says, what does it say? Oh, crikey. Yeah, the limits of any kind of illusions is from Houdini, some sort of Houdini TV program. The TV program of Houdini. Oh no, sorry, it's from a documentary about the life of Houdini. Oh, this one's a badass tune too. This is another 140 business coming in now, called Under G VIP, which means underground VIP. The reason it's called that is there's a sample again from literally taken from the most obscure documentary on New York culture back in the day. It's a man just talking who lives in New York, I guess. And you're here, so I'll shut up. Yeah, I like this one. You need the sub for this one, or some bass of some sort. Okay, here we go.
Do the right thing. Do the right thing, you go a long way. That's right. All I can tell any person, black or white, red or green. Try to live right and do the right thing, respect people, and you go forward.
Yeah, trippy. Yeah, I forgot to mention, if you want to check out my website, it's got all sorts of stuff on it. That'll be deepandbeeper.co.uk.
Oh shit, to do the right thing. To do the right thing, you go a long way.
I believe that's true.
That's right.
Bit of wisdom there.
Bag of white,
From the dude.
red or green. Try to live right and do the right thing, respect people, and you go for it.
So next up, we have When Hyperspace Intersects Your Car Park. This is another bass monster. And as I like to direct people to videos on YouTube, I urge you check out this video. I did it myself. It's basically like in a special effects, like in a car park CGI, mad hyperspace objects flying around and the camera like just on like some sort of trip, which wouldn't be weird. In the meantime, here's the track, When Hyperspace Intersects Your Car Park, off the EP Tetrahedron Collider. We've got a track in with an NJC as well, and some other good stuff. Yeah, I'll let it run now. Here we go, some beats. Thought I had to get in my daily dose of impersonating electronic music. Never an easy one. So coming next, we have a track called Rolling Like a Cube Doesn't. Admittedly, because this track, I believe, sounds like it's sort of rolling. I will also point out, weirdly, I don't know why anyway, but it's one of my favourite tracks I ever did. And it's on Deep Feed 6, which had a couple of tracks with JT. That'll be Jerry co-producing with me and some harmonica playing as well. But this was the intro track, the first one. Yeah, here it comes. Rolling Like a Cube Doesn't. Don't know why, just love the vibe on it. I'll let you hear, judge for yourself. What's it like? Answers on an envelope. Just don't write in if you think it's terrible. Yeah, here we go. Yeah. Beep. Hope you enjoyed that. Vibesing, sort of minimal business, isn't it? Yeah, just a little shout out pointer out. I'm called Deep and Beeper. The beeper is meant to be synthesizers, and the deep is meant to be it's deep music, not I am calling myself deep, which would be if I do say so myself sort of situation. Also, it was sort of chosen as because at the time when I invented the name, I was planning to make lots of drum and bass purely. So I thought Deep and Beeper would also have the letters D and B, so I thought it was a good name. But yeah, I do some drum and bass, but I also spread out into loads of different genres, as you might have noticed. Yeah, I do enjoy just sort of doing all sorts of different stuff, even ambient occasionally. So coming up now, we have, of course, a track homage to the daddy. The track is Aphex Twin is our daddy. Obviously named for the reasons of he's a bad man. We love him, me and a lot of my friends. And even though I've been told afterwards this track doesn't really sound like Aphex Twin, to me it kind of did. So that's where the name came from. A lot of slow beats and very bizarre beat pattern in this one, and some floaty synth noises and some Nice bass too. So check this out if you want. It's also got a B-side with a remix I did for Nick 225 in Layla called An Act, which is another great track. 225 smashed the piano bit, and Layla's doing the lyrics and words. So not really, well, lyrics, just not sung, but it's a great track as well. It's on the B-side of this, so check it out if you like. Aphex Twin is Our Daddy is the single. I'll shut up, let it play. Yes. Right, I'll stop that again because it's not as nice for your ears as the original tune, I'm guessing. So next up after this one we have DNA's Inner Jungle. That is on the Acid and Bass album, which has lots of exciting, trippy acid and bass music, hence the name. But this track is co-produced with me and my wife. She really helped a lot, and it's one of the best drum and bass tunes I ever did. Bit of modular in the middle. Also, at the beginning there's a bass noise I'll point out, which has a little special place in my heart. It's one of the best bass noises I've ever made, definitely. And I lost the preset that I'd made. You know, I lost what I'm talking about is, if you're not quite sure about music production, all the options that I put into the synthesizer to make the bass noise were usually stored, but I managed to lose them. For the one that's about to come in a sec, it goes like, which I really love it. It's one of my favourite bass noises ever. But I lost it. I can't make the noise. That's the one. Anyway, lots of help from my wife, Omp, on this track. She really did help. Yeah, she had the ideas of all sorts, help me produce, especially ideas of the percussion that comes in after the break in the middle. Initially, she was thinking some of the noises, it sounded like the sort of racing car Formula 1 circuits. We're thinking of calling it something to do with that, but then, DNA's in the Jungle came up, hence because I'm being 5D and her being Omp, D, 5D and A. So it works. Anyway, here's the track, I'm gonna shut up. Here we go. So in case you're wondering, we are now about 3 years ago. The next track is called It Was Better, in inverted commas. In the olden days, that's like a little joke on that joke that everyone thinks that music was better in the olden days, especially at raves. I'm not going to comment on that now, don't have time for that. But yeah, this one was made, apart from the bass noise, it was all modular. My old setup, and got some lovely little melodies out of the Turing machine, and just selected and adjusted and warped, noodled, twiddled, whatever you want to say, until the finished product was this, with some plinky plunky that then spreads less plinky plunky into more smushy, but the bass line I think is my favourite thing. This is hence named because it sort of reminds me of old school IDM, when the bass line comes in. So yeah, that's why we got It Was Better in the olden days. It's in inverted commas because I am making, I don't know if it was better in the olden days. What do you think? I mean, I think pop definitely 100% was better in the olden days. Apart from the rest of the music, I don't agree. Some of it was good in the olden days, obviously. And I'll let this play Plinky Plunky over your ears. It's called, I just said about 3 times. Here we go. In a bit. hope you enjoyed that. Some definitive modular synth and bass noise there. So up next we have Quantum Encryption. That'll be Quantum and then N-CRYPTION. This track is off a concept album I did called Encoded Reality. My brain has literally just melted. I'm just going to double check that is the name of the album. Yeah, of course. So the idea of it was a concept album from the birth of the universe to the eventual death of the universe. This was in the middle, quantum encryption, after humanity is taken over by UFOs. UFOs, artificial intelligence was the idea. This is a mad one. It's got a trippy space cat, as you've got to have in tracks sometimes. You'll hear it in a bit. It's got some polyrhythms that managed to fit together fairly well. And yeah, it's just, I do like it. It's one of my faves. I'll let it run now. Chippy, chippy, chippy is the name of the game when it comes to deep and deeper. Boom, boom, ba, boom, boom. Anyway, I'll shut up. Yeah, Quantum Encryption from the Encoded Reality album. Yeah, that's a trippy one. Next track is ID Tuner. That would be spelled ID and then Tuner. This one's from Deep Feed 4. Oh, no, I lie. It's from Deep Feed 3. We're really going back in time. This must be 4 or 5 years now. You're probably wondering why it's called ID Tuner. And the joke was ages ago, maybe 8 or 9 years. Well, it's not, I mean, relatively ages. I made a track, a dubstep tune, and it was when I was living in Brixton with the indomitable Jerry, and he came in the room and I was like, what do you think of this tune, man? Look, check it out, as I always did when I played a tune. And he was like, that's detuned, mate. So I was like, oh, it sounds great though, perfect. I'll call it, he goes, that's out of tune. And I'm like, okay, cool, because it sounded sick. So I called it I.detuner, D-E-T-U-N-E-R, as in I've detuned the noise. And then I thought much over the years of it, oh, it's quite funny, it sounds like, you know, identification, a tuna fish. So I made a track, short of a name, and I just thought that'd be jokes. So I'll let it run. It's got some beats, it's got some bass. That'll be the norm for my music. And here we go, well, unless it's ambient, of course. I'll shut up. ID Tuner from Deep Feed 3. Yes, that track, ID Tuner, was made shortly after I moved to the countryside about 4 years ago, I think, off the top of my head. Maybe coming up on 4 and a bit, I'm not quite sure exactly. You know, it's hard. Stuff blurs into one sometimes. So the track coming next after this one will be the first one we've entered maybe more years, 5 years, maybe 6. It's called The Original Don. And I know that, well, I remember where I was when I made it, which was living in Brixton with Jella. It's quite beaty. It's got some trippy noises of this vocal sample. And it's called The Original Don because there's another little sample from originally from a ska tune, yeah, I think called Caged, which I nabbed very slightly about someone going, "He's the original Don, dancehall Don." So yeah, you can hear that when it comes in any moment now. Faded and The Original Don. Here we go. Beats, mofo. Yeah, that is the track as well. If I do say myself. I like that bit going, it's on. I don't even know what that is, if I'm honest, I don't remember. Homage to ODB, possibly. Yes. So following that, we have another from back in the day. This one's called With Love from the Lab, and this is the Spider Sentry mix. And like I'd like to say, check the video for this one out if you want, if you like the tune. It's got a CGI spider, like sort of dancing. Animation's hard. He's moving about. He's attempting to dance at the very least. Put this way, it ain't Disney, but it's pretty cool. So have a look at that if you like. In the meantime, hear the track. It's a 140 beast. Yeah, I like this one too. Yeah. Shout outs to Zookeeper as well, who at the time was called Zookeeper, is on the, I think he was actually on the A side, I think this was the B side, or whichever way around. Did some sick flow for another version of this tune. Okay, here we go. It's With Love for the Lab, the Spider Sentry mix. check the mechanical spider video. So I'm back from a snack attack, energized and ready to continue this journey into the older times of Deep and Beeper, the beginning times. And actually the very last track is pre even Deep and Beeper. but I'm re-releasing it as me. So, moving on, my label Ambiel, shout outs to Nat and everyone to do with Ambiel. A lot of them got together and did a drum and bass act called Deca Jam. And this is my remix of Dirty Bass featuring Jasmine Knight. Yeah, it's pretty cool. As I've said about all these tracks, if I do say so myself. Yeah, I like this one, nice bass. Her voice is great, and I do some trippy effects delay on it. Shouts again to NJC Nat for being a great manager, label boss, and all-round dude. Producer too, of course. Yeah, anyway, I'll let the track run in a bit. Yeah, BT, Bassy. So I also did another track with Zookeeper a while ago called Fade to White Light. That was, yeah, everyone really liked it actually. Some people were even like, Nick, you made a grimy track. But it didn't sound like grime to me. But on the flip side of that single was this. called Fade to White Light, the beepers turn in the mix. The reason is that it was less, it wasn't Zookeeper doing his rap, but it was more me absolutely murdering some synthesizers, you know, aka beeper in my alias. Yeah, so this one's, yeah, I mean, it's, it goes off, it's mean at the end, mean, I'll let it play. that's it. That's hard. So we're now moving to one of the one of the earliest tunes I remember actually making in when I lived at Jerry's. Well, not the second time I lived at Jerry's, that is. And it's called Time Game. I don't know what to say apart from check it out. It's drum and bass. It's a bit weird as usual, but here we go.
Time is what we need, so they say. Give me a little more time. Time is what we need, so they say.
time game there. So yeah, like I said, yeah, check this stuff out still if you like it, if you've got this far into the podcast. Oh, we're getting older and older. From Pre-Time Game was the next track coming in, which is even more earlier, called Rock Steady Fuzz. There was an artist that I was initially planning to try and do a track for, Girly, she's called. She's quite actually big now. We never got around to doing a track together, but the one I started to make for me, well, for her, yeah, it was pretty good. But it devolved, or evolved, whatever you want to say, into this track, which I love. Very old again, relatively. Rock Steady Fuzz. Yeah. I'll let it play into your ears and brain. Here we go. Yeah, that was pretty chippy. If I do say so myself, a well-built tune. So now we're into the penultimate one I'm going to play you today, coming up now. I like that distorted noise, whatever that is. So the final, I say final, that's a lie. Penultimate track I'm going to play is The Beast Deep Dive Remix. And this one's got a weird snare, but it sounds hard. Smashes you about, like it should do. And it's got a great sample in the middle, actually, if I do remember. It's initially, but it's actually out of a film called Altered States. But I got the idea from years ago from a hallucinating tune. I'll just let you hear it. It's The Beast Deep Dive Remix.
I
You like to try and beatbox with tunes sometimes. So the final track is coming soon. Let me actually look at the date, because I've actually got a release date for this one. It's coming on the 13th of May on a release called something like let me tell you, because that would probably be ideal. It's called Warning, Heavyweight Acid, Bend Your Knees, the Old Vault remasters. The reason being is it's really old tracks. One's like 12, 13 years ago. Pretty Deep and Beeper even. But being re-released and remastered as Deep and Beeper. This one's called Spin System. Because it sounds like spinning at times. Originally, it was named a Tasty Breaks Fest. Shout outs to my cousin Eddie, producer, who he told me recently on a podcast when we were on it, that this was one of the first electronic tunes he ever heard. And it sort of showed him what it was capable of. He said electronic music. He hadn't really heard something, so I don't know, you have to ask him. But yeah, getting re-released after all these years. Here we go, Spin System. Anyway, see you next week, and I hope you enjoyed the trip through my tunes back in time. Have a good one. Here we go, the spinny bit.